Only in the federal government could an applicant in the hiring process be sent to the front of the line because of a history of drug addiction or alcoholism or due to morbid obesity, irritable bowel syndrome, or a psychiatric disorder. The next administration should insist that the federal government's hiring, evaluation, retention, and compensation practices benefit taxpayers rather than benefiting the lowest rung of the federal workforce. If you have irritable bowel syndrome, you go to the front of the line. I mean, maybe the bathroom line.
Well,
Ugh.
Hello.
hello.
Welcome to the Project 2025 Emergency Book Club Comedy Podcast Project.
The title should be longer.
Sure. That was Vance Sanders, today's guest. Thank you, Vance. I'm co-host Josh DiDonato, and Cori Stewart is lovely, talented, young, vivacious, and our resident legal expert. Please welcome. We're going through this monstrous 900-plus page document, Mandate for Leadership, The Conservative Promise, aka Project 2025. And we're gonna I feel like we should go back to the foreword every episode just because it's so rich.
Because it takes 2 hours to.
Also, our main concern will be section 1, taking the reins of government, which, not at all ominous. Which will include discussing the White House office, Executive Office of the President of the United States, and the central personnel agencies managing the bureaucracy, which is just a big, long list of lots of jobs.
Oh, there's a lot of interesting opining about some of the offices. So I think that's pretty good, like what needs to be cut and why. And this is a preview.
They're contradicting themselves. We want to have less to do with government, but we're going to stick our fingers on every part of government.
Yeah.
So
We need a merit system that we can appoint our friends to.
but that's what the progressives have done. And look where every sentence ends with "and look where we are now."
So before we were recording, Vance, you and I were talking about the foreword.
When was this put out? Like, it was before Kamala Harris became the nominee. It was still
right.
Joe. I think they were so full of themselves and full of, we have this in the bag. Guess what? All those things that we kind of hint around about, we're going to fucking put them out because this is done. I don't think they would have had the balls to put this out when, like, oh, guess what? We have an opponent now.
They do a version of this prior to most elections, though. It's just usually not a statement.
They were dropping a new album. They promoted this. They have a logo. They practically have like a theme song. This is not a mandate. This is not an order. This is not something we'll put into action. This is their suggestion, but they presented it like this is freaking happening. From the first sentence, the voice of this document is 100% heterosexual white male. They're obsessed with the word woke and being anti-woke. I'm a Christian, and being woke is literally what being a Christian is taking others into consideration and doing what you can to help others that need help. That's what being woke is.
The party as a whole uses a lot of these terms. I think that they imbued with meaning that are supposed to be like insults.
And they've equated wokeism with fascism.
Like, they're mad about people being anti-fascist, and then they call people fascists, like in the same breath.
And they're trying to like follow Ron DeSantis, which who in the hell would do that? Like, we're anti-woke, and I'm like, so you're anti-helping people and being sensitive and like taking other, because this is white patriarchy. That's all this is white patriarchy, and that's not this country anymore. Maybe the 1950s.
Yeah.
So
the tone of it is very much this kind of like euphoric recall for a past that our country never had.
Yeah.
Well, that thing they were romanticizing, as I said, had white only water fountains. those things existed in this time period that you think is so great. Also, this document is the forward is obsessed with sex. They bring up sex so often. Drag queens, holy shit! That's what's bringing out as drag queens. And as we've all seen, Trump he looks like the worst clown. His makeup is so bad. And supposedly he does his own makeup and like talk to a drag queen to figure out how to put your makeup on correctly. You would look 100% more like a human being if you could learn some things from drag queens, which you hate. Like, what is the number one killer of children? And it's guns. So your argument about drag queens is completely moot if you're trying to protect the children. Yeah. And the other thing, the first point of the forward is we want to bring the family back to the center of American life. And by family, they mean a heterosexual couple with children who go to church. That is their definition of family. I am that guy. I am a heterosexual man with two children who goes to church. Of all the people I know, that is maybe 40%. Do I know some heterosexual couples who go to church who have transgender children? Yes, I do. So if that's their shield against this horrible thing that happens, guess what? It happens everywhere.
Yeah, the first transgendered person that I ever met, I met at the church that I went to when I was a kid.
A lot of my friends have sent their kids to the private Christian school, and guess what? But the students were having a contest at the private Christian school. Who can have sex on campus without being caught? That was happening at the Christian high school. So, which I'm not saying that doesn't happen at the regular high school. It probably does. But
I just want to say this is. I'm not going to claim to be an expert here, but I'm just going to guess that the Christian kids who are in Christian schools who can have sex without getting caught are just way more competitive than the public school kids, just because the stakes are higher. That's just my thought. All right. Well, that's a good amount of chat about the forward. Let's get to this section 1, taking the reins of government. Thoughts?
It is an encapsulation, these 3 sections, of all of the like, how can our executive branch bring the paternalistic vision into the 21st century, because it eliminates a lot of the offices of the executive branch I'm sorry that have been established over the last 20 years or so, as we've learned more about our changing country, like gender policy, but things that can make money, like space. All about expanding that. Is there oil on Mars? I don't know. Let's find out.
The question I have for you, Cori, is they constantly say we want to go back to self-governance, that they were going to turn the power to self-governance. What is self-governance? That doesn't, like, we govern ourselves.
The state, I think, is the idea of self-governance, like putting it on states and then local government to make decisions. But they're very happy to like environmental issues, they're happy to address those with executive orders. And so it is self-serving, certainly, to say, well, things like abortion or gender issues should, like, there should be no decisions on that at the federal level. That's a way to make sure that protections for those people who need protection for healthcare services are in Texas, in Mississippi,
But was there a previous time in the past that the states did more of their own work, and then I don't remember the government taking away power from the states. That's what they're saying. We took away power from the states, and I don't remember.
So there were a lot of decisions through civil rights litigation and through Supreme Court decisions in the 40s, 50s, 60s. A lot of segregation issues or like it's all state by state by state. And then the Civil Rights Act kind of unified protections for people of color. And then after that, there were protections for like equal wage, the Equal Wage Act. And so that is taking state issues like where people need greater protection, and like the federal government by acts of Congress are unifying what should be a national, maybe a national position, like we don't segregate schools, or we don't pay women less than men, or women have the right to reproductive health care decisions across the country. I am sorry.
Well,
choking.
While Cori's choking, I'll mention that states' rights was, allowing slavery. I mean, one thing about it is that individual states can make horrible ideas based on just people in their region.
And so the idea of self-governance is like letting local government or state government decide these issues that have been decided as like through mostly Supreme Court cases, and then codified maybe by Congress, although Roe versus Wade was never codified.
Yes.
I think another sort of part of sort of taking so-called power away from the federal government and returning it to the states also involves the federal government not having to fund things in the states. One of the things I'm reading ahead later on in talking about FEMA, they want to stop, they want to take away funding from FEMA and put the onus on individual states to for like hurricane relief and things like that, which it seems to be unsustainable. And we'll talk about that in a future pod. I do want, before you guys go on too much more about stuff, I do want to quote from the beginning of this section, the reins of government, that I think you guys are maybe kind of missing the point. This is from page 51 of the document. Abraham Lincoln warned that the greatest threat to America would come not from without, but from within. Okay, so they're going to list some of, if you can just think of the worst problems that are the scourge of this country, I'm about to say what they are. Okay, this is evident today, whether it be mask and vaccine mandates, one of our leading problems, efforts to keep Americans from driving gas cars or using gas stoves. Just a rampant problem. Using a gas stove, it's ruined my life. Or efforts to defund the police, indoctrinate school children, alter beloved books, abridge free speech, which is funny because they just want to ban books. They undermine the colorblind ideal, or deny the biological reality that there are only two sexes. The left's steady stream of insanity appears to be never ending. So I just listed to you the main threats to America.
And don't forget drag queens, because they're...
It's implied, I think. I thought it was important that we address the real problems here, guys. I want to read this section from page 52. Many of these laws and regulations governing a largely underworked, overcompensated, and unaccountable federal civilian workforce are so irrational that they would be comical in a less important context. This is true whether it comes to evaluating employees' performance or hiring new employees. This is my favorite part. Only in the federal government could an applicant in the hiring process be sent to the front of the line because of a history of drug addiction or alcoholism, or due to morbid obesity, irritable bowel syndrome, or a psychiatric disorder. The next administration should insist that the federal government's hiring, evaluation, retention, and compensation practices benefit taxpayers rather than benefiting the lowest rung of the federal workforce. If you have irritable bowel syndrome, you go to the front of the line. I mean, maybe the bathroom line.
Well, what they're talking about is preferential hiring for people with disabilities. They are trying to like diversify the federal workforce and ensure that there are accommodations for people with disabilities. But this is kind of a perversion of that.
I got to get some irritable bowel syndrome because I need a job, man.
Who's the number one bowel person is Donald Trump. He like wears
the number one bowel person.
bowel problem. Like, I don't know if you saw it. Like, I kept seeing this because he was on Fox and Friends yesterday after he said he was too tired to do anything else. And he's sitting on a towel like you would put down for someone who's wet. And if you and I kept seeing the picture, I'm like, what are they pointing out? Oh my God, yes. No one, everyone else, it's a great couch. Everyone is sitting on a great couch except for him, and he has this weird little blanket underneath him because probably they had not changed his diapers for a while, and they could, smell it or sense it. Feces, yeah, that's a kind of a red flag, Ugh.
I will say that there are lots of terrible things that you can say about Donald Trump, but I kind of feel like there's a little ageism in talking about his diapers all the time.
I mean, nobody's talking about his diapers all the time.
When people call him like the Cheeto or talk about him wearing diapers, it's like there's so many shitty things that he does that like speculating as to whether he's wearing a diaper is.
He can soil his diaper and still continue in a normal interaction with someone, like, because now I can smell your poop and I'm supposed to keep talking like I can't smell your poop.
I feel like this
poop tangent,
this poop theory, might include some conjecture. I will admit to opening up the can of bowel worms by discussing IBS. Let's move on. We don't want to get stuck in the bowels of poop talk. I did think the IBS thing was funny, and they're the lowest rung of the workforce. This is something that refers to executive orders. This is page 53. Presidents should not issue mask or vaccine mandates or vaccine mandates, transfer student loan debt, or issue monarchical mandates of any sort. Yeah, Biden giving people student loan relief, just way beyond the pale. I mean, how dare he? Does he think he's a king?
I fall in this camp, and I know that the SAVE program or SAVE plan and a lot of the loan forgiveness initiatives by the Biden administration are still tied up in court. And if I did not have income-based repayment plan, my student loan payments would be $1,800 a month.
Oh my God.
I was the first person in my family that went to school. I am going to eventually, hopefully, have loan forgiveness in the next couple years because I've done public interest work my whole career. But it's insane to me that we are paying for our own job training, like it creates this kind of like enslavement for them.
Yes.
I don't know, Cori. Sounds like you're just asking for government handouts to me.
And I will tell you this, like the way that loan forgiveness is constructed, it takes people who are maybe first generation or low income students, and they have to do these really hard public interest jobs, these jobs that are certain to burn you out in the first 10 years of your career.
Yes.
Which is how long it takes to attain loan forgiveness. And it's also kind of a tool of capitalism because I think it takes naturally smart people and sticks them into this bureaucracy, which is lower paying than private sector or whatever, for like the biggest kind of building years of a career. So
they're in this section. They constantly talk about the elites, and do you want the elites ruling over you?
Yeah.
Yes.
I
Pretty
don't know.
rich that they're complaining about elites.
Yeah.
Um, it's interesting because I was just going to bring this up. That's sort of, I think, relates to the whole idea of elites. This whole document only makes sense in a Trump administration. Anyways, here's the quote that I wanted to say. The next administration must not cede such authority to nonpartisan experts. And, just an overall theme in this document is, we'll come back to this time and again, is the idea of removing the experts, removing people who who know what they're doing, and having everybody having the maximum number of people be political appointees who are loyal to their agenda, and that includes people who measure the purity of water and air and things like that, things that are just jobs that need not and should not involve any sort of political agenda, but just like the doing of certain tasks. And so this idea of like questioning the experts, that's a way of kind of like laying the groundwork for saying like we could just put anybody in this job, which cuts against their whole idea of merit.
I mean, it's their whole idea of alternative facts. Like if you make people question facts enough, then like you can say anything.
Okay, we're just gonna whip through this, and this is Office of the White House Counsel, and this is a quote. And the Office of the White House Counsel is also responsible for ensuring that each component of the White House adheres to all applicable legal and ethical guidelines. To which I say, ha! I don't think they did that this last time around. That's just as a layperson.
I don't know if any president has done it, but it was particularly egregious.
Jesus. Okay, so this is about the independence of the DOJ Attorney General and the White House. I found this interesting. Traditionally, both the White House Counsel and the Attorney General have issued a memo requiring all contact between the two institutions to occur only between the Office of White House Counsel and the Attorney General or Deputy Attorney General. The next administration should re-examine this policy and determine whether it might be more efficient or more appropriate for communication to occur through additional channels. Which seems to me to just be saying like there's no reason for us to. We might as well just erode the independence of the Attorney General and the DOJ from just doing the bidding of the White House. Is that your read of that, Cori?
Yeah, it does seem like they are trying to insulate and like protect the executive branch from being investigated. They are the ones who have the power to investigate bad acts by the president or by government officials.
Right, but if the White House Counsel, as a representative of the White House, and the Attorney General can just talk not through official channels, but just like just the president wants to have a word with you, and nobody needs to hear about it. That just I don't know. It just seems bad. Okay.
Donald Trump is the laziest president we ever had. His first thing that he was running on when he came down the golden escalator in Trump Tower was "I hate Mexicans."
Not Mexicans, Haitians that time.
Well, yeah, but in the general milieu of like people
immigrants.
But that is the one idea he's had this entire time.
the thing that he is very good at capitalizing on is the idea that like the expansion of rights of other people is a restriction of your rights.
It's classic fascism. The other is the problem. The other, these others, these immigrants, that they're the problem, not us.
One more point about the White House counsel. This is a quote from page 60. Moreover, while a candidate with elite credentials might seem ideal, the best one will be, above all, loyal to the president and the Constitution. And I feel like the Constitution is in heavy parentheses there. Okay, want to discuss the job of staff secretary. These are all White House positions. Pretty interesting to read in view of who their guy is. This is the staff secretary is prepares the presidential daily briefing, and brings them reading materials, personal mail, drafts of speeches. Okay, so as noted above, the staff secretary also handles information leaving the Oval Office. This is great. The president may have questions after reviewing incoming material. Okay, maybe not a huge risk of that. May wish to seek more information. I feel like that's off the list.
Oh yeah.
Or may demand revisions. Bingo. Okay, I think we've got the one thing that their guy would be doing. So just to continue that, one of the staff secretary's critical functions is managing and overseeing the clearance process for the president's daily nightly briefing book. This book is filled with all the reading material and leading documentation the president needs in the morning and the evening to help him make decisions.
Well, I think that's what they're supposed to do.
I know. I'm just talking about their guy. I'm not saying that's not a good important job. I'm just thinking about Donald Trump in this context. Page 62, and this stuck out to me. The speechwriting team is a critical component of the communications team. Speechwriting is a unique talent. The writers selected must understand policy, should have a firm grasp of history and other liberal arts disciplines, and should be able to learn and adopt the president's style of rhetoric and mode of delivery.
Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah.
Oh no, again, this is something that makes sense in the context of like a person who's writing speeches for like a regular human being, but I wouldn't want to be on the team that wrote a speech for Trump and then he just he's like he stops saying the words that you write and he just talks about sharks.
We need more Hannibal Lecter references.
I'm wondering if any of his speech writers are like, you know what, I gotta just work some more sharks and Hannibal Lecter references into this, because he's gonna say that anyway. So the press secretary, individuals who serve in this role must be quick on their feet, which means, when appropriate, deftly refuting and rebutting correspondents' comments and questions.
Sean Spicer.
Yeah, I was going to say, shout out Sean Spicer. The new administration should examine the nature, this is good, of the relationship between itself and the White House Correspondents Association, and consider whether an alternative coordinating body might be more suitable. So they're like, maybe we don't need to do the whole White House Correspondents Association thing, and the dinner they have. What?
Yeah.
We're not, maybe we just stop having that. I mean, that's what they're suggesting. They're like, it's just another thing like we've had for 50 years.
A free press to cross-check or fact-check.
Yeah.
Well, again, that's another hallmark of fascism, is like stopping free press, stopping people writing that's not 100% flattery of you, people that are questioning what you do. That's all fascism.
That's what I'm talking about. This is just a funny quote. The OLA must function as a well-oiled machine, precisely synced. The president cannot afford to have a tennis player on, much less as the leader of his football team.
What?
Yeah. It's just a
the right
dumb analogy.
man or lady for the job. but
Right.
not the right non-binary.
All right. So we invite you to read about more job descriptions. Yeah, they're talking about the National Security Council and the National Security Advisor, the NSC staff, and particularly the National Security Advisor. I feel like this is like a shot at Mike Flynn. Particularly the National Security Advisor should be vetted for foreign and security policy experience and insight. If you guys remember, brief National Security Advisor Mike Flynn was found to have been an agent of the government of Turkey.
Yes.
While he was our national security advisor. So, certainly during the Trump administration. Oh, this is interesting. Office of the Vice President. That's a good job if you can get it. Vice President has acted as a significant advisor to the President. Once elected, the VP helps to promote and in many instances put into place an executive and execute the President's agenda. And if things get dicey, is comfortable getting hanged by the neck until dead. Okay, I added that part.
Just hired some punch-up writers for the Project 2025.
I just think they should mention that. They're like, they should, it would be good to throw that in there. Some risk of being hanged. Okay. That didn't land as much as I thought it would. Okay, Office of the First Lady / First Gentleman.
Does it say First Gentleman? Or you add that?
First Gentleman. No, it's in there.
Yeah.
It is?
Not a non-binary person.
No. Yes, and the first spouse is afforded significant resources. If she wants to redecorate the White House during Christmas. This is interesting. It also says she should make sure to get a really good prenup. All right. Okay, we've got the Executive Office of the President.
This one's pretty good. This one talks a lot about decrying tyranny by not separating powers, right?
Right.
And then it goes on to talk about using executive orders a little further down, which, executive orders have been, the power of them were expanded during the Reagan administration. And so after 9/11, Bush used them to combat terrorism, but really to kind of monitor people more, and all of the big brother kind of stuff that supposedly conservatives hate. Page 82, and I'm skipping regulatory and information policy. And so this is talking a lot about, in the last paragraph, it's talking about expanding and maximizing the Congressional Review Act. It's an expansion of presidential powers that allows the executive branch to police people by accessing information, but also using executive power to overstep privacy laws, and also kind of encroaching on the powers of Congress through the Congressional Review Act. And so this is a power grab. This part is kind of a power grab through executive order.
Okay, so this is page 81, where it says the next president should also reinstate the many executive orders signed by President Trump that were designed to make the regulatory process more just, efficient, and transparent.
Yes. And so I think that so it mentions specifically President Ronald Reagan's Executive Order 12630. And this is an executive order that is about eminent domain. States love eminent domain when they can build a baseball stadium or maybe a football field. But the thing that this executive order was mostly used for was to restrict eminent domain in using it to get access to land for like environmental regulations necessary to like make sure that green legislation was effective.
Okay. It's not my area of expertise, so I'll take you at your word. There's also an office in the executive called the Gender Policy Council.
Yeah, they don't want that around.
You can probably see this coming up the block. The president should immediately revoke Executive Order 14020 and every policy, including sub-regulatory guidance documents produced on behalf of or related to the establishment or promotion of the Gender Policy Council and its subsidiary issue. Abolishing the Gender Policy Council would eliminate central promotion of abortion, comprehensive sexuality education, and the new woke gender ideology, which has as a principal tenet gender-affirming care and sex change surgeries on minors, which I don't really... does that happen much? Yeah, so they're going to eliminate that. So,
Gosh, I have to go pretty soon, so I'm not sure how long you're planning to go, but
I think okay, the last section, central personnel agencies managing the bureaucracy. Cori, it just has a lot of... I mean, I read it, but I mean,
a lot about trimming fat, but also to trim fat, you need to fill her up with fat, it seems like.
Explain.
The whole kind of spirit of this section is making sure that federal jobs are kind of more a right to work rather than a guaranteed protected position. The undermining unions, if and when they exist in the federal government, the protections of that we've seen with the erosion of unions across the board, like job stability and wage security has gone down, and so this is trying to establish the same kind of privatized system in our federal government, which has I think it's often these are positions taken by previously military people. These are there are specialized skills. I can tell you that bureaucratic positions are they're very draining. And so like they are specialized positions, and I don't know, that's my take on the whole section, is undermining the power of workers.
Okay, I think some of what you're saying is summed up in this quote. This is page 114. They've talked about unions and are they compatible with government, and so it says Congress should also consider whether public sector unions are appropriate in the first place. The bipartisan consensus up until the middle of the 20th century held that these unions were not compatible with constitutional government. After more than half a century of experience with public sector union frustrations of good government management, it is hard to avoid reaching the same conclusion. So they're just like, unions in the government, I mean, what's the point really? Right? Okay, I'm in favor of unions, and I'm in favor of a more perfect union, and I think we're a little closer after reading through this garbage. Vance Sanders, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Vance.
Cori, as always.
A pleasure as well.
And I am Josh. We'd like to thank they for listening as well. Okay.
All right, bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye.